Hey everyone, what's going on? My name is Jeremy. This is Selwa.
Hi again.
We are the creators of 24/6, and this is our segment Sip and Chat. When we left off on the last video talking about Sue Becker and the bread of life, and in this video we're gonna go into more information and details about that and where it brought us in our health journey. And I'll let Selwa, I know she was the one that first discovered the bread of life, this Sue Becker's bread of life. If you haven't watched it yet, please check it out. We'll post a link again in this video as well. And so tell them how you came across that video and what happened next.
Yeah, so somebody posted a link to this video in a text message thread from a ministry group that I was a part of. And at the time, I think when I first saw it, that was when our oldest daughter, Indy, was going through Molluscum.
Molluscum, yeah.
I think it's Molluscum contagiosum is how you say it.
Sounds like a Harry Potter spell.
It's terrible. It's awful.
It was pretty brutal.
It's really not that bad in terms of like how they feel or their symptoms, but it's like this childhood illness that causes clusters of little bumps to appear.
Almost like blisters.
Yeah, they almost look like blisters, but they don't hurt. They don't itch, really. I mean, they might itch a little bit as they're going away because how you know that they're going away is they get like really red and angry looking.
They get worse before they go away.
They get worse right before they go away. So when they look really bad, that's actually a good sign because that means that they're going away. But
and she had it. How long did she have it for? Like
she
months,
had it for a few months when I came across this video, and somebody posted it, and I saw it, and it looked interesting, but I didn't really think much of it. But then I saw the rest of the conversation that was going on in this forum, and some of the women were talking about making bread from scratch and milling their own wheat. And so I was like, what is this? Like, milling your own wheat? That sounds...
I didn't even know that was an option.
I know, like, it sounds like a lot of work, you know? That was my first thought. Like, do these people live on an Amish farm or something? I didn't know what to think. But I kept getting this nagging feeling that I needed to watch this video. So I added it to, I think, my watch later list on YouTube and figured I would come back to it. And then one day I just got the urge. I was like, something just told me you need to watch this video. And Indy was still like in the thick of her molluscum at that point. And it was just really aggravating because summer was coming up and we knew that, she wouldn't be able to go swimming in a pool with other kids if she still had this thing going on.
Yeah, because it's apparently very contagious, right?
Yeah, it's really contagious. It's like I said, it's not really that bad, but you just don't want to give it to other. I mean, I would just feel bad if she gave it to other kids, and you know, she didn't feel very confident, you know, wearing a bathing suit because it was like along her side here and on the back of her legs.
I don't even know how, but she didn't give it to her other kids.
No, and she did actually. I mean, she was still like sharing a bath.
Yeah, that was before we knew what it was.
Yeah, we didn't know what it was, so you know, she took a bath maybe like once with the other kids, and then we figured out that that's what it was, and so we stopped that. But miraculously, she didn't give it to them. But she had it for a little while, so we finally watched the video, and we learned about the health benefits of whole grains. And we also learned about how modern industrialization has really negatively impacted the wheat supply. Most of us probably grew up on store-bought bread made with white flour, and white flour is missing essential components of grains that contain all of the nutrients that you need.
Which is the germ.
So if you've watched this video already, you're probably already familiar with this, but if you haven't, I highly encourage you to go and watch it because it's packed full of really good information. And we're starting to see a lot more
Right.
people jump on this bandwagon
Right.
and buy a grain mill and start milling their own grains. So in the video, Sue Becker actually says something about grains being good for viral infections and viruses. And she even, I think, mentioned a testimonial from somebody who started making their own bread from freshly milled wheat berries, and they had a virus that went away after doing that. So as soon as I watched it, I was like, we're doing this. Yeah. So I bought a grain mill and we started making bread.
Well, and I'll say too, one of the main takeaways for me after watching that video is the fact that the germ is the part that is left out of the starchy white stuff that
starchy white flour.
Yeah, you buy at the grocery stores. And not only that is after the grain is milled, if it sits like in 24 hours, I think it loses like 80%. I'm not sure that these are the correct numbers, but I think it's something like 80% of the nutrients die off to oxidization. So knowing too that the germ contains the most nutrients, and more specifically, it's pretty rich in vitamin E, which is a vitamin that nobody really knows. Yeah, you don't hear a lot about it. You try to look up information, you won't be able to find a lot out about it, which is pretty interesting. Normally, when information's suppressed, there's a reason for that. So that little tidbit about the vitamin E, that just put a pin in that. We're going to come back to that vitamin in a later video, but yeah, that was one of the major takeaways for me, and it just made sense. Essentially buying store-bought bread, or even if you're buying the flour to make the bread, you're essentially making and eating dead bread.
Yeah,
really. So
yeah. And another thing that made a lot of sense to us too is just bread in general is so highly talked about,
so a part of
Scripture.
The biblical story. Yeah,
you see it everywhere. I mean, they were eating bread all the time, and Joseph was told to store up grains for 7 years, and I mean, it's just it's all over the Bible. It's funny, so it made me think, like, all these people are on these low carb, no sugar, no bread diets, and it doesn't make any sense, because bread is a whole food. It's a complete protein. Mm-hmm. It's full of vitamins, B vitamins, vitamin E. It's a whole food, basically. Right. So why are we cutting it out?
Well, and watching the video too made me think that, because we had done HTMA hair testing, and it made me think that maybe that's one of the reasons why I was deficient in all these minerals, was because I was depriving myself of carbohydrates and bread that are rich in some of these these minerals that I was neglecting to take in. So it just clicked for me, and it made sense. And then so she, not too long after that, bought a grain mill, a mock mill, right?
It's called a mock mill, and it's nothing scary. It's this contraption that sits on the counter, and you pour the wheat berries into the top, and it grinds it into flour. It's really simple process. And it's electric, so you don't, you're not like hand milling, although They do make hand crank mills as well.
And I would say we probably dived right in. I mean, you were making...
Yeah, I started making
a good amount of bread.
Pita bread, sandwich bread, buns for burgers. Muffins, cakes, all kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. That was another thing. We could make cakes and cookies and not feel guilty, because we're eating fresh milled whole grains.
Right.
And they're actually healthy and good for you. So that basically led us to the conclusion that carbs and bread and sugar might not be so bad after all. It's not necessarily those things that are bad, but the source, where you're getting them from. Are you getting natural sources of sugar, raw cane sugar, instead of, processed corn syrup? GMO corn sugar, and, are you eating fresh milled whole grains, made with sourdough yeast instead of store-bought dry active yeast and white flour.
Right.
The source of what you're eating matters probably more than like what you're actually eating if you're eating real food.
So yeah, we were probably making those different products, right? Bread and muffins, pancakes. We were doing that for about how long was it? Because Indy started the molluscum she had.
She had it for several months, and it disappeared within 3 to 4 weeks.
Well, first, after we were eating the bread, about maybe 2 weeks after we started making our own bread, it started to...
That's when her symptoms got worse.
Flare up.
And it flared up, and it scared me at first because I was like, oh my gosh.
It spread and it flared up. Like
worse.
Before, it was in one local area, and then that would flare up and go away, but then it'd move to another area. And I think at one point she had like a couple small areas in different places. But yeah, after 2 weeks of making and eating our own bread, it flared up, like it got like mad because it was dying. And then like 2 weeks after that, it was gone. It was gone completely and never came back. So
yeah,
we were pretty sold on the fact of
blown away.
that grains are actually a good thing.
Yeah.
Again, if you're getting them from the right source.
Yeah, and my rash did start to get better, but it never fully went away. I was still experiencing those same symptoms.
And I felt great even after like not having eaten any type of bread really. I was doing a little here and there. But after we started making our own, I was having it like every day.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any negative effects from that.
Yeah.
Well, your rash, it started to feel better, but it still didn't go away.
Yeah.
And I think there was a seed of doubt that, well, okay, maybe we shouldn't be doing grains,
yeah, maybe
right?
we shouldn't be doing grains. It was that little seed of doubt that came the first time as well. Like when we started the protocol with the minerals, and the rash came on pretty strong at that point. We started eating bread, and I did see Indy get better, and you started to feel better, but I was still having issues. And I think this was after Eden was born, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so I wasn't pregnant anymore, so I figured, I would start to get better because perhaps the rash was a pregnancy thing. But one of the things I did notice was that every time we went on vacation a couple of times to the beach while I had this rash, and each time we did that, it started to go away. And by the time we got home, it was almost completely gone. But then we would get home and get back into our routine, and it would come back full force. And so there was just a lot of confusion, I think. Like, we kind of knew,
Oh, you thought it was like maybe we had mold in our house, or
in our brand new
something
construction.
or something we were taking in that was making you have this, because you would go away on vacation and it'd start getting better and almost completely
yeah, but
go
the
away.
crazy thing is I wasn't eating any better on vacation. In fact, I was probably eating worse because we were on vacation.
Yep.
And so
yeah,
I was like, it didn't make any sense. And so again, we started second guessing the bread thing, just like we had second guessed the mineral thing.
I was still I think we were both dealing essentially with issues of inflammation. Like I still had some gut issues, some low energy, brain fog,
bloating,
which is could easily be passed off as, oh well, I'm a parent of 4 kids, and
or I'm postpartum, so this is normal.
And we do, we own our own business as well, and so you kind of get the whole thing, like being low fatigue and having brain fog. Well, people could pass it off as, I'm just getting tired, I'm just getting older, we're busy or whatever. But we know that we've seen little spurts of like things were getting better, but we were still we were still dealing with some of these reoccurring issues, and for me, gut and digestion stuff, and again, still occasionally breaking out into hives, which is not a fun experience at all, and I, don't wish that on my worst enemy.
So we went to our chiropractor. They had a wellness event. They have these pretty regularly one evening, and we went to hear the talk that they gave at that event. And one of the things that our chiropractor said that stuck out to me was that he was able to heal himself of psoriasis. And I asked him after the event how he did that, and he said he basically got his food allergies test and cut out the foods that were inflammatory for him. And so that's when we decided to get a food allergies test.
Not like he stayed away from
not
them.
Forever, but just until he was able to heal his gut.
Gut.
That made me think, okay, well maybe there's some issue with my gut, because I really just at that point I wanted to get rid of the rash because it had been there for like over a year, and I was ready to feel better again. So that's when we decided to get the food allergies test, and that is...
And also a stool test, because we were trying to figure out what was going on with her guts, where it was at currently. The whole point of the IgG food allergy test was to see what was causing inflammation and just throwing your gut off, because essentially what happens is it's tied to leaky gut, and so your gut will leak out certain foods that it reacts to, and it sees that food as an invader because it's not supposed to go through your stomach lining, and then so from there your body will have a reaction to it. That's where inflammation occurs, and that will cause issues, obviously.
Yeah. So we'll talk more about that in the next episode. Be sure and hit that subscribe button and that notification bell if you want to be notified when that episode is released and when we release future episodes as well. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next Sip and Chat.